South East Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
The three guests on this week's Business Matters were all guest speakers at the Rejuvenate Ireland Wellbeing Conference, which was held in Wexford last month. Tracy Piggott is a big advocate for the initiative, and she joins me now to discuss the success of the event and to look back at her distinguished broadcasting career. Was it always your intention to pursue a career in broadcasting?
No, definitely not. I kind of fell into it by accident in the late 80s. I'd moved to Ireland in about 1986, I think it was, and like many people in their early 20s, I wasn't really sure in what direction I was going career-wise. I knew I loved my horses and racing and sport. It was always a thing that I enjoyed in many different aspects. But it was after riding the ladies' race at Leopardstown that year and winning it, which was amazing, that somebody said to me, that I should maybe think about doing something on radio or television. It resonated with me, and I followed that up with a meeting with the head of sport, who at that time was a great man called Tim O'Connor. And from initially sort of laughing at me for having absolutely no experience in the field, he came back to me a few months later and said, we're willing to take a risk with you. And it was a huge risk because not only was I female, and that was very, very unusual in those days in sports broadcasting, but, I was English. And obviously my background and my father being who he is and the success that he had helped. But he made me very aware that, although the name could open doors, once that door's opened, you really have to prove yourself. So he was a great mentor. And that's really how it started. Now,
you must be inundated with requests for tips. How do you handle those?
I tell them the truth, which is I'm the worst tipster in the world. And whatever I tip, you should make sure you back anything else but that one. That's what I say.
And looking back, Tracy, are there any standout moments or highlights that you remember fondly?
Well, I've been very, very lucky. Obviously, being brought up as the daughter of Lester Piggott and 9 derbies and all these wonderful successes he had over the years. I mean, that was great. But I suppose as a daughter and, him being my dad, you started taking a little bit for granted at the time. I think it's when you look back, you sort of go, oh, my goodness, did that really happen? And then, being part of the industry over the years, I've seen some amazing successes and, been part of some wonderful victories. But I have to say, for me, above all those, miles above all those, was our Duke winning the Irish Grand National this April for Jesse Harrington. He's a horse that I've ridden pretty much every day through the cold winters and the wet mornings and the dark mornings, and to have ridden him from when he first came in, having never seen a race course, to watch him do that was just the absolute highlight of my career. It was like seeing my child win. It was just amazing and terrifying all at the same time.
Now, as I mentioned in the introduction, you were one of the guest speakers at Rejuvenate Ireland Wellbeing Conference. But what enticed you to get involved in this initiative?
Well, I've always been very interested in that side of things, even, as long as I can remember, alternative therapies and alternative ways of looking after yourself emotionally and nutrition as well, and exercise, and all those things which are so important to have in balance in your life, have been areas that I've always had an interest in. And then I came upon Japa meditation about I suppose that would be nearly 4 years ago now, 3 or 4 years ago, and through that I met Clodagh Comiskey, and we became very good friends. And she's a fascinating woman, and just in so many ways. And really, the idea of having a Rejuvenate Ireland conference started a couple of years ago, and we had the first one last year in Wexford, and then this one was bigger again with more speakers. There was a morning session and then a big evening session, and there were lots of speakers throughout both of them. And she asked would I be in, I spoke at the last one, and then she asked would I be interested in getting more involved with this one, and I didn't hesitate, because it's a huge area that needs to be addressed, and I'm just so glad that the conversation is out there. It's not such a taboo subject now, mental health and well-being. So to be part of it was a no-brainer for me, and we got wonderful support, and the Chamber of Commerce in Wexford was just fantastic. Madeline in there worked so hard along with Clodagh. We got a huge turnout and fantastic speakers. So it was a really inspiring, empowering day, and I was just delighted it went so well, and I just wanted to get bigger and better, and it will. I think it will grow. There was a wonderful reaction to it, and I think a lot of people went away feeling, really empowered, as I say, and it became very evident, which I think we're all pretty much aware of, but people are all fighting their own battles, and to be able to find the tools and learn how to handle the stresses of life, of which there are many, I think it's just a win-win.
And Tracy, what did you take away from the day yourself?
Well, I took so much away. I mean, each speaker, I think it was clever, and I think it wasn't necessarily by design, but it just turned out that every speaker was very different and came from a very different sort of background or age group or career or what have you, but they all had a similar theme, which was, things are tough and we do struggle, but there is hope, and there are ways which you can bring yourself into balance, and it's not difficult, and there's support, and we were very aware of the suicide crisis we have here in Ireland, and the huge percentage of young people on antidepressants, and this, the message that so many people are trying to get across was it doesn't have to be like that. There are ways that we can step away from the madness of everyday life and the pressures and the strains, and that young people with all the peer pressure and the social media, to be able to teach people that and give them that power to help themselves. That's what I hugely took out of the day, and also this great desire to work with the organisers, with Clodagh, to make this bigger and better, and hopefully roll it out across schools so that young people can gain from it as well, because that's where it starts. I mean, for me, that's where I first found, serious emotional challenges and various, forms of depression, and which in those days we didn't have a name, and it was taboo, and it was scary, and you felt very, very lonely, and without any idea if you were going to be able to pull yourself out of this. So if we can help young people understand that they can empower themselves, and that to me is the biggest thing.
And Tracy, what worked for you?
Well, I mean, I suppose a lot of things over the years worked for me. I mean, I have a strong faith. It may not be sort of the typical one type of religion for the faith, but I'd have a very strong spiritual faith. So that helped me a lot. But reading about mindfulness and learning to try and sort of almost step outside of yourself. So, and a lot of people would have heard about that famous book, The Power of Now, and that is a fantastic book to read. And there are many others that sort of explain that if you could just stop and look at this very, very moment, this very second, and, that the people, and I do it all the time too, we tend to be worrying about the future and the past, and in fact, the past is gone, we don't know what the future's going to be, but we do waste an awful lot of emotional energy and get terribly stressed about things that we don't have any control over. So it's really to be able to sit down and step away from that madness and to help control your mind, because the mind is, as we know, a very, very powerful thing, and it can be a hugely positive thing, but it can be tragically negative. So, I do think that there are so many things that we can learn and so many people that we can help.
And of course, you were one of the keynote speakers yourself on the day at the Rejuvenate Ireland Wellbeing Conference. For the benefit of our listeners that were unable to attend the event on the day, what was your key message? I
decided to do what, I feel I do best, and that is just speak of my own experience, because that's unique to me, and to be very, very honest, which, can be quite hard, and I actually felt a little bit, as I was getting up from the table to go up and sort of prepare myself there at the podium, it was like walking to the end of a diving board on a very, very high diving board above a big pool or something, that, I just had to take 2 steps and jump, because I really felt, I was exposing a very personal, private part of myself and my life. But once I kind of jumped off the edge, it kind of took on a life of its own, and I really felt that I was, being true to myself and being honest by telling my story, and hopefully showing that, you can come out the other side. And even though, that I still struggle a lot with various things, I got to this stage in my life of, 52-year-old woman and a lovely daughter, and it's just I felt it was the right thing to do, to tell my story, and if I helped even one person, by doing that, it meant a lot. It was funny. I was just thinking as I was talking there that the mayor of Wexford, he spoke beforehand, a wonderful man, and again spoke very bravely and very honestly. But he said, really, unless you bare your soul and you're totally honest, you can't really help anybody. So that really said to me, yes, I'm doing the right thing. Just tell your own story and be true. And that's what I did too.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.